wanted to make a macropad for the Ugly workshop to control some automation and practice keyboard building before I attempt to make a custom ergonomic keyboard in the near future. I knew I wanted at least enough digits for a number pad, so 10 digits, a dot, and a return, so 12 switches seemed like a good number. I also wanted a rotary encoder to eventually control shop music or lighting. Key switch selection is a big topic for a full keyboard, but for a macropad, firm linear switches are the best choice, so I went with the Cherry MX Blacks and ordered 2 sets of 10 from Amazon, along with some X-Keys transparent keycaps designed to hold custom labels without annoying adhesive. For the microcontroller, I've wanted an excuse to play with the dirt cheap but nicely spec'd Raspberry Pi Pico and specifically chose the Adafruit Feather RP2040 variant for its USB-C port. This will also let us use the CircuitPython-based KMK firmware so we can directly modify the macropad configuration without any recompilation. I created a simple schematic in KiCad to help with assembly and programming later. I threw in the necessary 1N4148 diodes and some 18-gauge wire, and ordered all the remaining components off of DigiKey while I got started on designing the case. Using the mechanical design sheet for plate-mounted Cherry MX switches and standard 19mm key spacing, I designed a case in Fusion 360 and printed it in PLA. Aside from some warping on one corner, the fit turned out perfect and will be plenty sturdy. With all the parts in hand, we could begin assembly. The key switches snap into the plate. Then I used a vice grip stripper to expose segments of wire and solder down the columns. I created a jewelry loop in the diodes and soldered them to the row pins, then soldered row wires across. I soldered leads under the microcontroller and then trimmed and stripped the size before soldering each row and column, as well as the rotary encoder. With the assembly complete, we can just connect to a computer, copy over the CircuitPython image for our microcontroller, reboot, copy over the KMK firmware, and add our key configuration. And now we have our completed macropad. All that's left now is to decide what all these buttons should do. But for that, we'll have to wait for a future video. I'll see you next time for more ugly robots.